But nothing was fine. The FBI agent who'd grilled me about Alvin on Chancellor Avenue had earlier stopped by Haynes' dress department to question my mother, then by the Metropolitan Newark office to question my father, and just after Sandy left Aunt Evelyn's office for home, he had boarded my brother's bus, and, from the seat alongside him, conducted yet another interrogation. Alvin wasn't at dinner to hear about any of this. Just as we were sitting down to eat, he'd phoned and told my mother not to save anything for him. It seemed that every time he'd made a killing at poker or craps, Alvin took Shushy downtown with him to Hickory Grill for a charcoal-broiled steak dinner. Alvin's partner in crime, my father called Shushy. What he called Alvin that evening was ungrateful, stupid, reckless, ignorant, and incorrigible. And bitter, my mother said sadly, so bitter because of his leg. Well, I'm sick and tired of his leg, said my father. He went to war. Who sent him? I didn't. You didn't. Abe Steinheim didn't. Abe Steinheim wanted to send him to college. He went to war on his own, and he's lucky he wasn't killed. He's lucky it was just his leg. This is it, Bess. I've had it with that boy. The FBI questioned my children. Bad enough they harass you and me. And in my office, mind you. In front of the boss? No, he told her. This has to stop, and stop now. This is my home. We are a family. He has dinner downtown with Shushy. Let him live with Shushy. If only he would go to school, my mother said. If only he would take a job. He has a job, my father replied. Bum. After we'd finished eating, my mother put a meal together for Selden and Mrs. Wishnow, and my father helped her carry the plates downstairs while Sandy and I were left with the dinner dishes. We set to work at the sink as we did most nights, except that I couldn't shut up. I told him about the crap game. I told him about the FBI agent. I told him about Mr. Wishnow. He didn't die in his bed, I said. Mother's not telling us the truth. He committed suicide. Only she doesn't want to say it. Selden found him in the closet when he got home from school. He hung himself. That's why the police came. Did he turn colors? My brother asked me. I only saw him under the sheet. Maybe it was colors. I don't know. I don't want to know. It was bad enough when they jiggled the stretcher that you could see him move. That I had thought at first it was my father under the sheet. I didn't say aloud for fear that if I did, it would turn out to be true. The fact that my father was alive, vividly alive, angry at Alvin and threatening to throw him out of the house, had no impact on my thinking. How do you know he was in the closet? Sandy asked. That's what all the kids said. And you believe them? Because of his fame, he was becoming a very hard boy whose tremendous confidence now sounded more and more like lordly arrogance whenever he spoke about me or my friends. Well, why were all the police here? Just because he died? People die all the time, I said, trying, however, not to believe it. He killed himself. He had to. And is that against the law, killing yourself? My brother asked me. What were we going to do? Put him in jail for killing himself? I didn't know. I didn't know any longer what the law was, and so I didn't know what might or might not be against it. I didn't seem to know whether my own father, who'd just headed downstairs with my mother, was really alive or pretending to be alive or being driven around dead in the back of that ambulance. I didn't know anything. I didn't know why Alvin was bad now instead of good. I didn't know if I had dreamed that an FBI agent had questioned me on Chancellor Avenue. It had to be a dream, and yet it couldn't be if everybody else said they'd been questioned too, unless that was the dream. I felt woozy and thought I was going to faint. I'd never before seen anyone faint, other than in a movie, and I'd never before fainted myself. I'd never before looked at my house from a hiding place across the street and wished that it was somebody else's. I'd never before had $20 in my pocket. I'd never before known anyone who'd seen his father hanging in a closet. I'd never before had to grow up at a pace like this. Never before, the great refrain of 1942. You better call Mom, I told my brother. Call her and tell her to come home right away. But before Sandy could reach the back door and rush down to the Wishnows, I was vomiting into the dish towel in my hand, and when I collapsed, it was because my leg had been blown off and my blood was everywhere. I remained in bed with a high fever for 6 days, so weak and lifeless the family doctor stopped by every evening to check on the progress of my disease, that not uncommon childhood ailment called, "Why can't it be the way it was?" And that is where we will pause.